Time to elevate. You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Running on Empty. I'm Matt.
And I'm Tony.
And we are Running on Empty. And today we are continuing our interview series with senatorial candidates from Wisconsin. Tony, why don't you tell us who we have today?
Yeah, we are very thrilled and honored today to be joined by Wisconsin State Treasurer Sarah Godlewski. Welcome, Sarah.
Well, thanks, Tony, and thanks, Matt, for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Sarah Godlewski was elected to the state treasurer position in November of 2018. In April of this year, she announced her candidacy for United States Senate. She is a Democrat seeking to unseat the incumbent, Ron Johnson. Sarah Godlewski is originally from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. She's a fifth-generation Wisconsinite. She did graduate from George Mason University, where she was the student body president. After college, she held a number of public and private sector positions. She co-founded a socially responsible investment firm, and there's so much in her prior background that I think would relate to her U.S. Senate run, and we can have her talk about that as she would like to. Thank you for being here, Sarah. And first question, of course, is why are you running for the United States Senate?
Yeah, well, Tony, I will tell you, a year ago, I did not think I would be on this wild ride. But, I am the product of public schools. My parents were two public school teachers in Eau Claire, and they always taught me, when you see something wrong, you got to stand up and do something about it. And I mean, Matt and Tony, this past year with COVID was crazy because we had a legislature here in Wisconsin that's full-time that didn't meet for 300 days. And then you are watching Senator Ron Johnson single-handedly hold up $1,400 checks, money for small businesses, trying to expand vaccination programs. And my office is getting calls saying people need help. And so, from my end as state treasurer, without any additional resources, just being scrappy, I stepped up, whether it was, starting a foreclosure prevention fund to helping finance community projects that were worried about essential services or economic development, to even providing a special distribution, because I was talking to parents and teachers where literally they were driving to the McDonald's parking lot to get Wi-Fi so their kids could, go online and learn. And so it was at the end of this past year where we've been reaching out, trying to talk to Senator Johnson's office, and they just didn't seem to care. And I'm like, enough is enough. And honestly, Wisconsin deserves better. And I just can't sit on the sidelines and watch somebody who would rather talk about conspiracy theories than kitchen table issues that keep Wisconsinites up at night.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, well, what kind of Democrat are you? If you think of the last few Democrats to serve in the United States Senate, obviously we've got Tammy Baldwin right now, who I'd call a progressive. We had Russ Feingold, who, of course, was kind of like a maverick, but I would call him a progressive also. We have Herb Kohl, who was, more of what I'd call a corporate kind of Democrat. The late Bill Proxmire, fiscal conservative. What kind of a Democrat is Sarah Godlewski?
Well, and Tony, let's not forget Senator Gaylord Nelson.
Yes.
Also is very influential and has been a key Wisconsin senator. For me, there is something unique about each and every one of them, whether it is with, Tammy Baldwin and her Made in America policies to Senator Feingold, who, took the first real step to getting money out of politics, to Senator Kohl having generations in this state and really, I think, a model for Wisconsin values, to even, for me, Gaylord Nelson and his fight for the environment that we are still seeing today. And so I really think that there is something about each and every one of them. To me, what this comes down to is really the ability to fight for Wisconsinites. Senator Proxmire and making sure there's economic security. Here in the state of Wisconsin, we have one of the worst personal income growths in the country. We've got to do something about stagnant wages. women are more out of the workforce now. And the last time we've seen them, numbers this low was the 1980s. It's because we've got to get affordable childcare. We've got to get paid family leave. And, Tony, man, I'll tell you, when I talk about those kind of policies, people will say, well, Sarah, those are nice to have. And I'm like, nice to have for who? Because women and people of color are really struggling because it is critical for their economic growth and development. And they're not able to, we saw so many people over this past pandemic that had to choose between their job and literally taking care of a sick family member, or, a job and taking care of their kids because they're at home. And so I think these are issues that we've got to have a front and center conversation on. And again, it's one of the reasons why I'm running for U.S. Senate, because I think we need more young moms at the U.S. Senate table. And right now we just don't have that.
Yes. Yeah. And of course you are a mom. We didn't mention that. You are a young mom. But just to go back for a second, you mentioned Bill Proxmire. Proxmire never spent any money in running for office. He was legendary for that. How much money are you prepared to spend? I know that one of your opponents, Mr. Nelson, has challenged the candidates to, set spending limits, and you spent quite a bit of money to get elected state treasurer. I think your campaign raised like $600,000. I think half of it was from your own personal funds. What would you say to the criticism that you're going to try and say buy the primary? You're going to spend a lot of personal money to do it.
Well, I ran a people-driven campaign in 2018. I took more of the vote share than the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And I also didn't take any corporate PAC money because I believe that politicians need to report to people, not to corporations. And that's exactly what I am doing in this campaign. I am running a people-centric campaign. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. But look, I think, Tony and Matt, something that we know is the Republicans are going to do everything they can to outspend us.
Yes.
And I'm just not going to let them do that. I mean, we are not going to lose this race because we're not getting our message out. We are going to make sure that we do that effectively. But I think, Tony, something that you really shine a light on is the importance for us getting the We the People Act through HR1 and SR1.
Yeah.
Something that just is absolutely gross to me is how much money we put into politics. And we need to make sure we do everything that we can to get this out. I mean, I was literally talking, my husband immigrated here, and I was talking to his dad, and they live in Europe, and his dad was like, I don't get it, Sarah. How can people spend so much money in politics? Like, this is crazy. And I go, I know. I think one of the reasons why we've got to do everything we can to pass the We the People Act so we can get that money out of politics, because Citizens United only crippled it. I mean, the fact that corporations are people and can just put countless amounts of money is just insane. And we've got to do everything we can to make sure that government works for people.
But what do you make about the fact that it seems to be Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema that are as big of a barrier to passing some of this legislation? What's your take on that?
I mean, I think they are representing their state. I mean, look at Kirsten Sinema. She took John McCain's seat. And what did we all know about John McCain? He's a maverick. He does what he wants. He does what the people of Arizona want him to do. What is Senator Sinema doing? What she wants, what she believes the people of Arizona are doing, being a maverick. I mean, look at Senator Manchin is basically one of the only Democrats in a Trump state. Yeah, and so he is representing the people of West Virginia, and that is their job, is to be that voice for their state.
But I know you've said that you'd like to see the filibuster end in the U.S. Senate. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, Tony, something that I did a 1,700-mile tour when I announced my candidacy, and something that was kind of a common theme is we send people to Washington to get things done. Why is Washington gridlocked? Well, for me, I really looked at the filibuster pretty long and hard because my background's actually in peace and conflict resolution.
Mhm.
That's why I went to school out east. And I was like, is really the filibuster used as a tool for compromise? And what it came pretty clear, if you look at it, is the filibuster's used to be, I think, combative, not collaborative. And it further divides it. I mean, right now, Mitch McConnell has said he's going to use the filibuster every single time to not make progress for the American people. So despite the majority of Americans wanting, climate change, protection with democracy,
Mhm.
I mean, you name it, Mitch McConnell is saying, nope, I'm not going to do that because I've got this filibuster. It's not bringing people to the table at all.
Right.
If we'd only make them actually do a filibuster, I mean, they kind of say it and then they kind of ignore it after that. So it's not like they're actually doing what they should be doing in a real filibuster. That's why, I mean, it's just being used now as a weapon versus anything, I think.
Exactly. And the one thing too, I like to point out when we think about the filibuster, because they're like, Sarah, aren't you worried that this is going to be used against us? And my response is, look, we saw the Affordable Care Act. Literally, they were able to get it be removed by a simple majority. Remember, they used the reconciliation process.
Right.
But yet 3 Republicans, Senator Collins, Senator Murkowski, and we all remember Senator McCain and the big thumbs down, protected the Affordable Care Act. So yes, we can come together to protect important legislation, because I really believe senators will step up and do the right thing by just simply ruling by a majority.
Speaking of the Affordable Care Act, healthcare is obviously a crucial issue. Many Democrats support Medicare for all. What's your position on that?
Well, healthcare is pretty personal to me, Tony. I mean, as I literally have a sign and a picture of when I was doing, they were doing all those town halls for Obamacare, and it says, "My car has better insurance than I do." And, I know I'm not alone with Americans and Wisconsinites who've had that experience where your car was required to have insurance, but you weren't. I mean, what does that speak about our worth and our value? And so for me, I mean, there is no doubt about it. Like, healthcare is a right, and we have to do everything we can to make sure that people are covered. I mean, I was talking with folks. I mean, we saw right here with the state legislature, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, where we were going to get Medicaid money, which would have helped 90,000 more Wisconsinites have access to healthcare, and literally given the state $1 billion for healthcare innovation. And the Republicans said no. I mean, this is insane.
So so you don't support Medicare for all, however? I mean, what do you want to see, like an improvement of Obamacare? I mean, what is your specific view on it?
Yeah, for me, I think, for example, Tammy Baldwin gets it right when she's like, look, we've got to put all options on the table to make sure we have affordable health care. But for me, the one thing that keeps me up at night is scrapping Obamacare and starting over. I mean, I think about just having my child 18 months ago. Because of the Affordable Care Act, insurance companies are required to cover labor and delivery. You want to know what my bill was for having my son? It was over $20,000.
Wow.
But thanks to the Affordable Care Act, they could not charge that rate for me. I paid $1,000 for having my son. And so I know so many parents before the Affordable Care Act were telling me that they couldn't even pay their bills to have their kids.
Right.
Or even I think about the protections against pre-existing conditions. We know millions of Wisconsinites would be affected if we got rid of Obamacare, and insurance companies could discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions.
But if there was a vote on Medicare for all, right? Currently, you have to be 65 years old to get Medicare, correct? If there was a vote to say Medicare is for everyone from the day you're born, you're on Medicare, would you vote for that?
Yeah, let's get everybody to have insurance. I think that that's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but are you going to campaign actively on Medicare for all?
I mean,
sounds
Tony,
Go ahead.
yeah, Tony, like, just to be honest, I'm campaigning for, we just need to fix the healthcare system. And so for me, I think that there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. You know, something that I've learned as being state treasurer is if you come with a specific thing that you want to do, you're setting yourself up for failure, because collaboration and compromise requires a lot of different tools in your toolbox. And so for me, my value is healthcare is a right, and we have to make sure that Wisconsinites have better access to healthcare, have lower prescription drug prices. Like, that to me is critical. Now, I think there's a lot of ways, and something that I have learned over my time as state treasurer, or even as a small business owner, is there's a lot of ways to slice and dice that.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to be flexible in the legislative process to be able to do that. But I think, you know, what I want Wisconsinites to know is that my value is that I believe healthcare is a right, and we have to do everything to improve the system.
Speaking of Wisconsinites, now we said you were born in Eau Claire. You've got deep Wisconsin roots. But after college, you did spend quite a bit of time out of the state. I think you lived in Washington, D.C. for a while. And you came back to Wisconsin, I think, was it 2017?
16.
2016. So as you know, we've got now a lot of red counties in the state, so-called red counties. What is Sarah Godlewski's appeal to especially those deep red counties in the state?
Yeah, I mean, something that I have seen, and look, my family goes back 5 generations in rural Wisconsin. A lot of them are from Polk County, Trempealeau, Barron County. And what my conversations have been with rural Wisconsinites is that their life has not been better with Donald Trump after the last 4 years.
Yep.
You know, before the pandemic hit, we were #1 in farm bankruptcies. We had lost thousands of manufacturing jobs to the trade wars in China, and people have not seen results. But yet what we are seeing, for example, with President Biden after the American Rescue Plan, is that they're seeing results. They saw $1,400 checks in their pockets. They saw money for their favorite, you know, maybe local bar or their hardware store that is critical to their Main Street economy, to even expanding vaccination programs in areas where they weren't expecting them to see. And so to me, and you know, in my conversations, part of my role as state treasurer is we help finance a lot of these rural community projects. Like we did a broadband project, for example, in Drummond, Wisconsin, which needs access to broadband. And so my conversation with folks in rural Wisconsin is that when you elect Democrats, you see results. We're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. And I think that is a real opportunity for us to continue to make progress in some of these red counties where they took a chance on voting for Donald Trump. He didn't deliver. And now we're seeing that when you vote for Democrats, we deliver and get the job done for rural Wisconsin.
A lot of people in the rural counties, really all over Wisconsin, are being told that the Green New Deal would destroy jobs, would wreck our economy. What's your view on the Green New Deal? Do you support it? And is it good for Wisconsin? Why?
Well, Tony and Matt, I want to be on the record for this, that I believe in climate change. I believe in science, unlike Ron Johnson, who continues to deny that climate change even exists. I mean, literally, like the guy said that Greenland was green. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. Like, it is just unbelievable.
Oh, man.
But look, like, we all know climate change is an existential threat, and we are seeing it right here in Wisconsin, whether it is with wildfires to flash floods that have caused infrastructure damage to communities and just depleted the soil for farmers and hurt their crops. So we've got to do something about it. I think, Tony, to your point, what is so exciting to me is that there is an opportunity for us to address climate change head on and do it in a way that provides economic security to folks here in Wisconsin and jobs.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually talking with a manufacturer in Manitowoc, and 90% of what their business is making parts for the combustion engine, which we all know runs on fossil fuels. And the conversation with the leadership of this plant was like, look, we know that we to transition to making parts for a clean energy and a clean economy, but we need a partner in the federal government to help us do that, whether
Right.
that is helping us train our people to our supply chain. And we're worried right now that without that sort of support from the federal government, Wisconsin's not going to be a leader in the clean energy economy. We're going to be lagging.
Right.
And so for me, I think it's a real opportunity for us to make sure that our manufacturing industry is positioned in a way that not only are they able to successfully transition, but we can grow jobs on them.
What do you, we only have a little bit of time. I want to make sure we get as much as possible. What do you think about President Biden's infrastructure bill? Some Democrats believe it doesn't go far enough. Where do you stand on the infrastructure bill?
Well, I'm excited about the infrastructure bill for a few reasons. Let's look at what this initial infrastructure package is going to do. It's going to provide money for Wisconsinites to have clean water. I mean, Tony, Matt, how long have we heard in Milwaukee and across the state that people are still drinking from lead pipes?
Yeah.
I mean, kids in Milwaukee are drinking lead, like water with lead that's impacting their cognitive development. And finally,
Yes.
the federal government is going to step up and address this. To even, how like broadband, we all saw this last year, how it crippled a lot of communities because they simply didn't have access. 28% of rural Wisconsinites don't have access to broadband.
Right.
And so to me, these are kind of key elements: clean water, making sure that we've got broadband access, and our roads are a D+ in Wisconsin. And guess who pays for that at the end of the day? We do, because our cars are the ones that take the hit.
Right.
And we have to take it to get fixed more often because, my alignment is getting thrown off because I'm driving down county roads in Wisconsin. So to me, this is a no-brainer. We've got to get this done. But look, I do think that there is this process called reconciliation that we just talked about, where we can then push things like I talked about, paid family leave, affordable childcare, the environmental aspects of this work, the job training. And so I think that all can be an additional piece. It's not just, it's like a one and this type of way of approaching the infrastructure deal.
We got to make sure we ask you at least one foreign policy question. When we had some other candidates on, the Israel and Palestine conflict was going on, do you think it's time for the U.S. to rethink its relationship with Israel? Like, for example, should the defense aid be conditioned on greater human rights standards? I mean, what's your view about what the U.S. does in the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was studying peace and conflict resolution, I had a really unique opportunity to take some international peace classes, and one of them was with students, Palestinians and Israelis. And what I thought was so interesting about that learning opportunity for me is that they want the same thing. And what I mean by that is they want to be able to have religious freedom. They want the ability to live in a safe community, and they want the ability to have economic opportunity. And so, look, it is a complicated issue that isn't just a one sentence solution. To me, Israel is the only democracy right now in the Middle East, and we've got to do what we can to continue to protect Israel and make sure that terrorist groups like Hamas does not impact them. But look, I think one of the things for opportunities is Israel gets significant aid from the U.S. and we need more accountability standards and transparency in how that money is being used. And I think if that money is being used that impact humanitarians and is actually not being used for just defense, being used to in ways that I think are harming other folks, we've got to have conversations about that. As somebody who cares about fiscal transparency and accountability, I just think that's good governance.
What about our defense budget? Do you think it's time for the United States government to make some meaningful cuts in the defense budget? I mean, we're technically not at war. Iraq and Afghanistan, those wars are technically over. Back in the day, we used to talk about, having a peace dividend, right? The wars are over. Let's start spending more of the money at home. Do you think it's time to start cutting defense spending?
Well, Tony, is the only person in this race that has national security experience. So I spent almost 8 years at the Pentagon. I think one thing I want to emphasize is that war as we know it is not the 21st century. Something that we have to be prepared for in the 21st century is cybersecurity. And that can impact us absolutely anywhere. They can attack our electric grid and it's over for us. They can attack our water, our utilities.
Yeah.
And right now, I will tell you, we do not have the defense when it comes to cyber. And we know that Russia and other actors are coming after it and looking at it every single day. I mean, we just saw, what was it? The ransom attack that was done recently on, these companies. And so to me, yes, I think that the warfare in which we knew in the past is not what we are looking at in the future. I will also say, I think the other thing that has to be addressed is that right now, politicians push these defense budgets in ways that are absolutely awful. Like we're still building planes that other countries aren't even buying from us because they are no longer effective. But because it's in somebody's district and provides jobs, that's why we're still buying these planes. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity to take the politics out of the defense budget, which is sometimes imploding, I think, the budget in ways that we don't want it to, and actually making sure we're spending it effectively in the right way, like on cybersecurity.
All right, Sarah, we know you have to go, and we really appreciate your time. Can you just maybe close out with a statement as to why people should support your candidacy, and maybe let us know your website so our listeners can go for more information?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we know that beating Ron Johnson is not going to be an easy feat. I mean, Joe Biden, won with 20,000 votes. We know it's 4 or 5 votes per precinct. And so for me, I am the candidate in this race that has run 2 statewide campaigns. I ran the campaign to save the state treasurer's office. It took almost 63% of the vote, which we know is a landslide. And then running as state treasurer, I took more of the vote share than the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general, and won in Trump counties like Kenosha and Jackson. And so that's, I think, a big piece of it. Is part of that is I'm not just showing up in these communities for the first time. I've been traveling, listening, because, something my mom told me is God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, Sarah, more listening, less talking. And I think, heaven forbid, you send somebody to Washington that's actually listening and serving the people of Wisconsin, because right now that's not what Senator Johnson is doing. So I would be honored to earn Wisconsinites' vote in this race, because I know that we deserve somebody better, and I'm ready to go toe to toe with Ron Johnson to do that. But
your website is?
My website is Sarah, SARAH, 4FOR, Wisconsin.com. So that's all spelled out, and they can learn more about me, my campaign, and how to get involved.
Thank you so much for your time, Sarah. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you,
Sarah.
All right. Best wishes.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Tony, I really enjoyed today's interview, and pardon me for not sitting back and asking a lot of questions, but I think you had it, and I was just enthralled by your questioning, and I mean the conversation was great. So I loved it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, so far we've talked to Tom Nelson and Alex Lasry, and today Sarah Godlewski. This is shaping up to be a pretty interesting race. I mean, listening to Sarah Godlewski, she's going to be quite a force in this campaign. I mean, I think she's got quite a bit of charisma. Yeah. And like all politicians, it seems like she doesn't want to get locked into a view. For example, she just wouldn't come out and say, yes, I will campaign for Medicare for all. Right. All right. But I think that this is going to be a fun race to watch, and hopefully we'll get some other candidates also.
Yeah, I know she was calling John McCain the Maverick. I'm calling her a firecracker. I seriously think she is, and she's going to definitely be a force to be reckoned with. So I look forward to seeing what her campaign holds, and hopefully we get some more candidates on our show.
Yeah, one thing about last thing I'll say about Sarah is, she's had to fight in that state treasurer's office, just to get funding for the office. I mean, I think when she got into that office in 2019, it didn't even have internet connection.
Wow.
right? I mean, the
Wow.
Republicans in Madison have been trying to demolish that office. Not, we got to give her credit. She has fought to make that a real important office again. So, we'll see what happens in this campaign, but I'm fascinated by the choices that we're having so far. Now, there's a rumor out that the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes, who's an African-American man, there's a rumor that he might get into that race for U.S. Senate. So, if he does, we're going to try and get him on the show also, of course.
Definitely.
But so far, I mean, I think running on MT is making a pretty, good contribution to giving voters some good information about that race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we've got quite a few views on the past candidates, so I'm hoping that Sarah's gets a lot as well. I think she's got a lot of good things to say, and I know she's done a lot of good stuff for Wisconsin. Some of the folks that don't necessarily know, she had that Take Root Wisconsin program. That can be found on the internet, and we could throw links to that below as well, so you can learn more about her. But wow, I'm just amazed that we're doing all these great interviews and really having great discussions and hopefully pointing people in the right direction for how to vote when it comes time. So.
Absolutely, Matt. So thank you very much. And let's hope everyone, as always, stays elevated.
You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.